Here are the Amish's 20 hacks to make compost fast in a trash can. Layer like a quilt. Fast compost starts with the right layering method, and the Amish approach it like quilting, building one layer at a time with balance and care. The key is alternating green, which is wet, nitrogen-rich, and brown or dry, carbon-rich materials inside the trash can composter. Greens include things like vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, and grass clippings. Browns are dry leaves, shredded paper, straw, or torn cardboard. Amish composters start with a base of browns to absorb moisture and create airflow. Then they add greens, followed by another layer of browns, and continue this stacking pattern. Keeping layers thin, about 2 to 3 inches each, prevents matting and keeps the bin aerated. This layering method also helps reduce smells and speeds up breakdown by keeping the carbon to nitrogen ratio balanced. In a closed system like a trash can, airflow is limited, so layering properly is even more critical. Amish farmers sometimes poke air holes in the side of the bin to help oxygen reach the middle. One final trick they use is to sprinkle a handful of finished compost or garden soil between layers. This adds beneficial microbes early on and gives the pile a boost, so it heats up faster and breaks down evenly. Chop before you drop. To make compost fast in a trash can, the Amish always chop ingredients before tossing them in. Whole banana peels, apple cores, large leaves, or corn husks take longer to decompose if added in big pieces. Chopping increases surface area, which gives bacteria and fungi more to work with, speeding everything up. Amish gardeners use kitchen knives, garden clippers, or scissors to reduce kitchen scraps and garden waste to small, bite-sized pieces before adding them to the bin. Even dry items like cardboard or straw are torn or shredded first. This practice prevents clumps and improves airflow within the compost, helping it stay loose and evenly moist. Amish farmers say this small step can cut composting time in half. It also helps the pile heat up more evenly and reduces the risk of foul smells caused by large items rotting too slowly. Everything mixes better and breaks down at the same pace. For an extra boost, some Amish composters keep a bucket of chopped scraps near the kitchen and give them a few quick pulses in a food processor before dumping them in. This creates a fine texture that really fires up the microbial activity inside the compost bin. Add manure, or the Amish black gold. To the Amish, manure is more than fertilizer. It's the secret ingredient that turns compost into black gold. Adding aged barnyard manure to a compost bin gives it a major nitrogen boost, which microbes need to heat up and work fast. Cow, horse, and chicken manure are the most common, but some Amish families also use rabbit or goat droppings. They spread manure in thin layers between greens and browns, rather than dumping in large clumps to avoid odor and compaction. Manure also introduces beneficial microbes that kickstart decomposition naturally. It helps create the high heat needed to break down tougher materials like stalks and thick peels. Amish gardeners make sure the manure is well-aged or partially composted before using it to prevent burning the pile or introducing harmful pathogens. For those without livestock, some buy pelletized manure or collect droppings from neighbors. Even just a few scoops can noticeably speed up the breakdown process in a small trash can bin. A quick method the Amish use when they need a boost: stir a handful of manure into a bucket of water to make manure tea, then pour it into the bin for an instant, concentrated nitrogen charge. Corncob aerator. Among Amish families, even the leftovers from a corn harvest are put to clever use. Instead of throwing away dried corn cobs after shelling, they become a built-in aeration tool for composting. Amish gardeners stand several corn cobs upright inside the trash can composter as they build their layers. These simple air tunnels allow oxygen to reach deep into the pile, letting the microbes breathe and work faster. As the compost settles, the corn cobs slowly break down, adding both air pockets and organic matter to the mix. It's a quiet example of Amish thrift, turning what many would consider trash into a solution that makes better compost. Occasionally, the cobs are wiggled or lifted, loosening any compacted layers and making sure fresh air always finds its way inside. And when the job's done, there's nothing to clean up, just another bit of black gold for the garden. Next time you eat corn on the cob, save a few for your own pile and see just how fast your compost comes to life. If you want an extra boost, drill a few holes in the trash can itself to mimic their homemade wooden bins. More airflow always means faster results. Compost starter tea. When the Amish need compost to break down in a hurry, say before planting a new row of beans, they don't rely on commercial boosters. Instead, they turn to a time-honored recipe, compost starter tea. With a handful of finished compost or rich barnyard soil, they make a brew by soaking it in a bucket of rainwater for a day, then straining out the solids. This earthy tea is poured straight into the trash can composter, seeding the new pile with a burst of helpful microbes. It's a living shortcut that wakes up decomposition even in chilly spring weather, something the Amish learned from generations of working the land. As they build each new layer, a splash of this tea keeps the pile active and smelling sweet. There's no waste, just a cycle of renewal that fits right in with Amish values. If you want to push your compost further, try making a fresh batch of starter tea after you empty the bin. Leftover tea can also be watered onto vegetable beds for an early season boost that's as old-fashioned as it is effective. Keep it covered. Among the Amish, a compost pile is never left open to the weather. Whether it's a wooden bin or a simple trash can, they always keep the pile covered. A lid or an old board serves two purposes. It keeps the rain from soaking the pile and leaching out precious nutrients, and it keeps critters like raccoons or barn cats from poking around. Covering also helps the pile heat up, holding in the warmth that friendly microbes need to work their magic even on chilly spring nights. Amish families might use an old feed sack or scrap of tin for this job, whatever's handy and keeps the moisture just right. Lift the cover now and then to check if the pile needs a splash of rainwater or a good turn. If you want to speed things up even further, tuck a few layers of cardboard or burlap over the top of your compost. These extra blankets trap heat and keep odors down, helping the compost break down faster and more evenly, a small habit that's helped Amish gardens thrive for generations. Add wood ash, not lime. Amish homesteads are full of practical wisdom, and when it comes to sweetening compost, they turn to wood ash, not garden lime. After cleaning out the stove or outdoor fire pit, Amish gardeners sprinkle a thin layer of cool, gray ash into their trash can composter. Unlike lime, which can make the pile too alkaline and slow down decomposition, wood ash gently raises the pH without overpowering the mix. It also adds potassium and a handful of micronutrients that garden plants love. Only a little is needed. Too much ash will tip the balance and cool off the pile. The Amish always avoid adding ash from treated wood or charcoal, sticking with clean, natural sources. Try dusting a bit of wood ash between layers the next time you add browns, especially if your compost gets too sour or starts to smell. It's a humble amendment with a big payoff. Just another way the Amish turn everyday homestead leftovers into rich, balanced compost for their gardens. Eggshell Crunch. In Amish kitchens, eggshells are never wasted. They're a prized mineral booster for compost. After breakfast, eggshells are rinsed in cold water to remove any clinging yolk or white, then set aside to dry, usually on a sunny windowsill or in a bowl near the stove. Once dry, the shells are crushed by hand or rolled under a mason jar until they're in small, sharp bits, no larger than a fingernail. This makes them break down faster and spread calcium more evenly through the pile. Every few days, a handful of crushed shells is sprinkled over the top layer of compost, either right after adding kitchen scraps or garden greens. Amish families never add whole shells as they take much longer to decompose. When turning or mixing the pile, they look for white flecks to check if the shells are disappearing. If not, a quick extra crush speeds things up. For even finer results, some Amish pulse eggshells in an old coffee grinder before adding. After the compost is finished, any remaining shell fragments can be sifted out and scattered around tomatoes or cabbages to deter slugs and snails, putting every bit to use. Buttermilk Booster. Sometimes Amish composters need a quick way to jumpstart decomposition, especially when a pile seems slow or stubborn. That's when they reach for buttermilk, a classic micro booster. To use this trick, Amish gardeners mix 1 cup of cultured buttermilk with a quart of rainwater in an old jug, shaking it well. They poke a few holes in the compost pile or trash can bin with a broom handle, pouring the buttermilk solution evenly into each hole so it seeps down. The natural bacteria in buttermilk multiply quickly, waking up the compost microbes and getting things heating up in just a few days. This works especially well after adding a batch of browns, which sometimes stall a pile. For an extra push, some Amish add a spoonful of molasses to the buttermilk before pouring. It feeds the good bacteria even more. After treating the pile, the cover goes back on and the bin is left for a week or so without turning. The next time it's checked, the pile is usually warmer and breaking down faster. If you don't have buttermilk, you can use plain yogurt with live cultures mixed with water for a similar effect. Use sawdust, but only untreated. When cleaning up the woodshop, Amish families are careful to save sawdust, but they never use just any kind. Only sawdust from untreated natural wood is suitable for composting, as anything from pressure-treated, painted, or varnished boards can introduce toxins. Before adding sawdust, they make sure it's completely dry and free of splinters or hardware. Sawdust is sprinkled in thin layers, about 1/4 inch at a time, between wet greens or kitchen scraps in the trash can composter. This keeps the pile balanced and helps absorb extra moisture. Too much sawdust at once can slow composting and make the pile clump, so Amish gardeners stir it in gently with a garden fork after each addition. If the compost seems soggy or starts to smell, a thin layer of sawdust helps soak up liquid and restore balance. When available, pine or hardwood sawdust is preferred over softwoods like cedar, which break down more slowly. Amish composters sometimes mix a little chicken manure or fresh grass clippings with sawdust layers. This adds nitrogen and keeps everything breaking down at a steady pace. Keep it small. Rather than build a single huge compost pile, the Amish are firm believers in keeping things small and manageable, especially when working with a trash can bin. A small pile heats up faster, is easier to aerate, and is less likely to develop sour or smelly spots. When starting a new batch, Amish gardeners fill the bin only halfway at first, alternating layers of greens and browns just as if it were a larger heap. They give each new addition a gentle stir with a stick or hand trowel to mix everything up and avoid cold, unmixed pockets. As materials settle and decompose, more scraps are added until the bin is about 3/4 full, but never crammed to the top. Overfilling slows air circulation and traps excess moisture. Amish composters are quick to empty finished compost and start a new batch rather than let a bin overflow. They also find small bins easier to turn, move, or tuck under a porch roof for winter composting. If you're just getting started, try running 2 small bins at once, one active, one finishing, so you always have compost ready when you need it. Compost on a sunny spot. Where the Amish place their compost makes all the difference. Instead of tucking bins in a shady corner, they pick a spot that catches plenty of sun, often alongside a garden fence or near the south side of a barn. Sunshine helps warm the compost, and heat is what really speeds up decomposition. To set up a trash can composter, Amish gardeners level a patch of bare soil in a sunny spot, drill drainage holes in the can's bottom, and place it directly on the ground. This lets earthworms and good soil microbes wander up into the bin. Every few days, they check the temperature by pressing a hand to the side of the can. If it feels warm, the pile is working just right. If it seems cool or sluggish, they may move the bin to chase the sun as the seasons change. The cover stays on to keep in heat, but a quick lift now and then checks moisture. For even better results, some Amish families lay an old sheet of black plastic or a scrap of roofing tin under the bin. This extra layer soaks up the sun, adds heat from below, and gets compost cooking even faster. Rotate the can. Unlike turning a massive compost pile with a fork, Amish families make use of the humble trash can's shape. Rather than letting compost sit still, they give the whole can a good roll every few days. With the lid secured tightly, 2 people simply tip the can on its side and slowly roll it back and forth along the ground, mixing the contents inside. This rolling action breaks up clumps, mixes layers, and gets oxygen to the middle where it's needed most. Even kids can help with this simple job. Amish gardeners prefer this method in cold months when piles are slow or when bins are heavy and awkward to stir by hand. After a roll, the can is set upright, lid checked, and any moisture or odor issues are fixed before the next turn. As the compost shrinks, they may add more greens or browns and give another spin. For stubborn bins, some Amish put a few smooth stones or wooden blocks inside before rolling. These agitators help break up matted materials and keep the whole pile fluffy, cutting composting time and effort even more. Add aged straw. Old straw never goes to waste on an Amish farm. When the bedding from last year's barn cleaning starts to break down, it's saved for compost. Fresh straw is too tough and slow, but straw that's already soft, faded, or partly decomposed is perfect for a trash can composter. Amish gardeners tear or cut aged straw into short pieces just a few inches long and mix it with kitchen scraps, grass clippings, and garden trimmings in the bin. Straw adds carbon, keeps the pile from matting, and helps air move between layers. They always avoid using moldy straw, which can carry plant disease. A layer of straw on top soaks up odors, and some is tucked under the lid as insulation. Every time the bin is turned or rolled, the straw breaks down a bit more, making a loose, earthy compost. When finished, any leftover long pieces are sifted out and put back in the next batch. If you have no straw, chopped autumn leaves or shredded corn husks can be used just as well for light, fluffy structure that Amish compost piles need. Potato peel power. It's common to see a bucket of potato peelings near the back door of an Amish kitchen, but those scraps are never wasted. When making compost, Amish gardeners save every batch of potato peels, letting them dry out for a day or two before adding to the trash can bin. Drying first helps keep the pile from getting soggy. Potato peels are full of starch, which feeds the hungry microbes responsible for breaking down compost quickly. Before tossing them in, Amish cooks chop or tear large peels into smaller bits, mixing them with dry browns like straw or leaves. This prevents clumping and helps everything break down evenly. Every few weeks, a handful of wood ash is sprinkled on top to balance the extra moisture and boost potassium. The mix is turned or rolled regularly, so the peels decompose right along with the rest. If the pile seems slow or cool, adding a fresh batch of potato peels usually kicks the process back into gear. Any leftover peels not used in compost can be boiled into potato water, which is cooled and poured on the pile for a gentle nutrient boost. Cracked corn for heat. Corn is a staple on every Amish farm, and so is its use in composting. Instead of tossing whole hard kernels into the trash can, Amish families use cracked corn or cornmeal as a quick compost activator. A small scoop, no more than a quarter cup at a time, is sprinkled between wet kitchen scraps and dry layers. The finely cracked corn breaks down much faster than whole kernels, and the natural sugars fuel microbial activity, raising the temperature inside the bin. If a pile cools off or stalls in cold weather, cracked corn is often the secret ingredient to get it steaming again. Amish gardeners keep a bag of animal feed grade cracked corn in the shed for this very purpose, adding it sparingly so the bin doesn't get sticky. After a fresh addition, the bin is turned or rolled, distributing the corn evenly through the mix. If you don't have cracked corn, plain cornmeal from the pantry works too. Amish farmers sometimes pair cracked corn with a sprinkle of aged manure, giving the pile a double dose of microbe-pleasing fuel for a fast finish. Plantain and dock leaves. Walking the edges of an Amish garden, you'll notice plantain and dock, two broad-leafed weeds that most people pull and toss. Amish composters, though, gather these weeds for their nutrient-rich leaves. To use, they pick young, healthy plantain or dock leaves, rinse off dirt, and lay them in a sunny spot to wilt slightly. Wilting removes excess water and makes them break down faster in the compost bin. The leaves are torn into small pieces and layered between greens and browns, where they act like a green booster, feeding the compost microbes with minerals and trace elements. Amish gardeners add plantain and dock as often as they weed, making sure not to include any mature seed heads that could sprout later. Every time the bin is turned, the wilted leaves help keep the pile moist and aerated. If there's a flush of weeds after summer rain, they dry extras for later use or share them with neighbors. Some Amish composters use plantain and dock as mulch around tomatoes. Any leftover from the bin helps block weeds and slowly feeds the soil all season. Add Old Hay Bale twine, natural fiber only. Out in Amish haylofts, old bales are tied up with rough, natural fiber twine that's too good to waste. When emptying bales, Amish families collect the jute or sisal twine, never plastic, and cut it into pieces 4 to 6 inches long. The cut twine is mixed into the trash can composter as a slow-release brown. adding structure and creating tiny air pockets in the pile. Over time, the natural fibers break down, enriching the finished compost. Amish gardeners never use plastic or nylon twine since it won't rot and can tangle with tools during mixing. If the twine is dirty or moldy, it's still fine to use as long as it's not coated or treated. As the bin is turned or rolled, the twine helps break up clumps and keep the pile fluffy. To get the most benefit, Amish composters scatter twine throughout each layer rather than dumping it all in one spot. When compost is ready to use, any remaining tough strands are sifted out and reused in the next batch. For an extra tidy garden, leftover twine can also be woven into quick, rustic tomato ties, saving money and closing the recycling loop, Amish style. Barrel scraps. Not every kitchen scrap makes it to the garden right away on an Amish farm. Many households keep a barrel or large bucket near the kitchen door, collecting potato peels, coffee grounds, wilted greens, and even faded flower heads throughout the week. Each day or two, these barrel scraps are dumped in thin layers into the compost bin mixed with drier browns like straw or shredded newspaper. Amish cooks know that frequent, small additions keep the pile active and prevent odors. Before adding, they might chop larger scraps or crush eggshells for faster breakdown. After each layer, the pile is lightly fluffed with a stick or old hoe to keep air moving. If a batch of scraps is very wet or juicy, it's topped with dry material to avoid soggy, smelly spots. Rainy days don't stop the process. Barrel scraps go in as usual, and any extra moisture is soaked up by adding a sprinkle of wood ash or sawdust. As a clever finishing step, Amish gardeners rinse the barrel with a little rainwater and pour that nutrient tea over the pile, making sure nothing goes to waste. Use a compost thermometer or the Amish hand test. While modern gardeners may use a long-stemmed compost thermometer, Amish families often rely on simple, tried-and-true methods. When checking the pile's progress, they stick their hand a few inches into the compost. If it feels hot but not burning, the microbes are busy and the pile is cooking well. For those who prefer tools, a metal thermometer, the kind used for hay or silage, can be pushed deep into the trash can bin. The best temperature for fast composting is between 120 degrees Fahrenheit and 150 degrees Fahrenheit, warm enough to steam on cool mornings. Amish gardeners check the pile every week, turning or rolling the bin if the heat drops. If the pile is cool, they may add more greens, like grass clippings or kitchen scraps, or sprinkle on a little water and mix again. When the bin feels lukewarm or cold, the compost is nearly finished and ready to cure. For a truly hands-on Amish tip, warm up your hands in winter by using the hand test. If you can comfortably hold your palm in the pile for a few seconds, the heat is just right, and your compost will be done in no time. For more contents like this, click here to subscribe.